together 110 minutes, which is 110 minutes more than they played together in the regular season. Cleveland looks like it's experimenting on the fly, but it's working. Their most used postseason lineup is outscoring opponents by 41 points. That's good for third best in the playoffs. So what do you make of this? We know they remade their team during the season, but even with that said, how in the world have they done this, and what does it portend for this series?
LeBron plus 4 shooters. The only team that's ever solved it for an extended period of time randomly is the Pacers in the first round. And I think a lot of that was George Hill is like sneakily important to that lineup and that team. Just someone else who can handle the ball, run pick and rolls with LeBron, or screen for screen for LeBron. But that's just a really dynamic lineup. And if you have big, maybe so-so defensive personnel like the Raptors, you got no shot. Boston's got a shot, but that lineup is lethal.
I'm going to say something about 2 guys that have won championships that doesn't get said enough, because Tyronn Lue and Steve Kerr are actually doing a really good job coaching their basketball teams. When the Golden State Warriors started this year's playoffs, they started Andre Iguodala and JaVale McGee. That team had played a grand total of 0 minutes this year also. And so these teams adjusting on the fly
only 2 teams.
is what you have to do in the playoffs in order to survive and advance.
They're the only 2 teams in the playoffs that are playing around with different lineups and tweaking them, which goes against the normal school of thought that you spent the entire season figuring out your game plan for this time of the year. I always remember, do you remember when Ty Lue, towards the end of the season, after just such chaos and thinking this Cavs team is garbage and not going anywhere, and he said something along the lines of, I've got some tricks up my sleeve for the playoffs, and everyone thought, yeah, sure you do. It's funny now that here we are with 74 lineups later, and it's working.
Look at Rodney Hood. He went from starting to being a reserve to getting DNPs.
Right.
Larry Nance Jr., the same thing, starting to getting DNPs. When you're not a player that we need to rely on each game, you become somebody we can use as a specialist. And in this case, those guys aren't as effective, and they weren't earning those minutes, so therefore you got to get other guys in there.
Ty Lue did actually wait until the third quarter of Game 7 of the Indiana series to unleash the magic that is George Hill.
But he was injured also. He was injured.
It was a big
fair point. Fair point. Okay, I want to bring up something else that happened. We talked about it a little bit earlier, and I'm hoping you might have a little bit of insight into it, and that is that Dwayne Casey, who, for all we know, may very well end up getting fired here, and we hope not, but that's a possibility, was named the National Basketball Coaches Association's Coach of the Year. That's an award that's voted by his peers around the league. 7 other coaches received votes. Brad Stevens did not. Not a single vote from any of his peers. And we were trying to figure out this morning, is there something we should read into that? Is he somehow not respected because he came from the college ranks? Or is there some sort of feeling against him by the other coaches? What do you read, if anything, into the fact that he didn't get a single mention?
I don't read. Well, first of all, the coaches only got 1 vote, so you didn't get to list like 1, 2, and 3. You got 1.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of guys got votes.
No, even so, you'd expect them to get 1. I think, well, first of all, everybody loves Brad. He's very well respected. There's no sort of like secret like anti-Brad agenda. I do think there might be a sense of he's so secure in his job that he doesn't need an award like this. That said, I believe Pop got a vote, and no one is more secure in his job than Pop. So maybe that doesn't hold up. And by the way, Dwayne did a great job. Dwayne's a deserving winner. But it is a little strange. I'll give you that.
Here's what happens with Coach of the Year. Is normally the person that gets the person that gets the award is the person that does the best with what's perceived to be the least. This is why the greatest coaches like Pop and Phil haven't won the award a whole heck of a lot. Same with MVP. When you look back at history, like a Kobe Bryant or a Shaq who only won it 1 time. But in this case, and I'm glad you went there, there isn't a conspiracy against Brad Stevens. People stop speaking in the microphones acting like, oh, he's not a part of the network, or he's not a former player, or they just don't like him. They got 1 vote, and he just didn't get 1. And also, people want to give credit to Danny Ainge for hiring Brad, who gave Brad a roster that's going out performing.
Yeah, but you act like saying maybe they just don't like him is absurd, given these circumstances that he didn't get. This is not an argument about, oh, he didn't win. He didn't get a single vote.
Then Brett Brown did.
There's a red flag there. That's something that is definitely at least merits a conversation.
Let me read you the names who did. Brett Brown got a vote. Mike D'Antoni got a vote. Nate McMillan, Greg Popovich, Quinn Snyder, Terry Stotts, and Doc Rivers.
All good coaches. All really good coaches.
They're all fine coaches. No one's arguing.
I will say this. I do think there is there is some sense that Brad is given the respect of a coach that has won championships or multiple championships, and he has not done that. But I don't think any of that is personal about him. I don't think that is anything about his coaching acumen or anything like that. He's universally liked and respected.
And that saved Dwayne Casey's job? Like,
Sure.
if you're thinking about it and they're on the fence and something like this happened,
the other coaches saying that he was coach of the year will not matter when Masai Ujiri makes a decision.
Positive energy.
I think that the other coaches are just tired of Brad Stevens humiliating them with his inbound plays and then working every single
After
time.
They should be tired of Danny Ainge fleecing them in deals.
Do you think Dwayne Casey gets fired, by the way?
I think there's a better than 50-50 chance he gets fired. I don't think it's fair, but the NBA isn't fair, and at some point you just gotta win a game against Cleveland. You can't just get rolled every single time. And I don't know. Look, I think they're evaluating it. I think they'll think about, instead of changing coaches, is there a trade we can make, or do we just stay the course? I think they're going to think about everything, and these aren't easy decisions.
Dwayne Casey's done a terrific job with Toronto. The unfortunate thing is they did not meet expectations. So therefore, when that happens, how do you make change? 9 of the 10 players are returning under contract. So a lot of those contracts are not desirable, in my opinion. Serge Ibaka and Kyle Lowry come to mind, and they developed some role players to play well. So based on that NBA dynamic, unfortunately, it may cost Dwayne Casey his job.
All right, let's make sure we save some time here for this West matchup that everyone is so looking forward to. And I made the statement earlier this morning. I sincerely hope I'm wrong. I just think Golden State is the much better team. I respect the heck out of Houston for doing everything they could to make a run, but I don't see it. I believe the Warriors wind up winning somewhat easily. Tell me why I'm wrong.
You give them 2? You give Houston 2, or even less than 2?
Something like that.
Okay, I mean, see, I think
there will never be a point in this series.
There
will never be a point in the series where you think to yourself, oh, the Rockets are going to win the series.
I got to ask you.
That moment will not come.
So let me ask you a question.
Go.
Because on one hand, you feel like if it goes 6 in the Houston-Golden State series, it may not be close. But on the other hand, you felt like the Philadelphia and Celtics series was closer, but they were down 3-0.
Right.
So that means they clearly didn't have a chance to win.
Right. I think it's going to look something like that. There were multiple close games in that series that could have gone either way, and Boston made every single play down the stretch. Give them all the credit in the world. The Warriors, again, they're 24-3 in the playoffs the last 2 years. Is this team, this Houston team, it feels to me, if styles make fights, Houston just wants to ISO the ball. They never throw a pass. They were last in the league in passing this year.
Which is not.
You think that works well against Golden State?
That's not a bad way. I mean, if you can make it work, they're the most efficient isolation team ever. When you don't pass, you don't turn the ball over. And I think a lot of what has happened with Houston and Cleveland is they stopped turning the ball over like ever, which means the other team doesn't get runouts. They don't get easy baskets. They don't get in foul trouble. All that stuff. Look, I agree with you. Golden State is better, but they don't have home court. And Houston is really, you just mentioned Golden State's crazy record. I lost track of what Houston's record is when they have Paul, Harden, and Capella. It's like 45-4 or something. I mean, at some point, maybe they're not as good, but they're really, really good. And they're well built to push this team pretty hard. I think the Warriors will win, but I think it's going to be fun.
6 games, 7 games?
My pick is going to be Warriors in 6.
Warriors in 6.
See, I feel like you picked 6.
Yeah, but the 6-game series aren't all created equal.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Like there are some where you think to yourself, this could go either way, and there are some where you think to yourself, the other team did fairly well to get it to a 6th game, kind of like
you're just extending the inevitable.
Exactly. I believe it is inevitable. And again, I hope I am wrong.
I hope you are too.
I think the guys are
I'm looking forward to this.
The good news is I almost always am.
But how about this? We can't say that Houston didn't put up a good fight if they lost in 6. Well, we're ending a second round of the playoffs where none of the games win 6 games.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Golden State hasn't been to a 6th game, by the way.
I love that we've already fast-forwarded through the Western Conference Final.
We have to let Zach go. Again, the podcast all the time. We love it. We love you. Please come by anytime. Good to see you. Thank you, Zach. Well done. Also want to make sure you know,
brought the fire.
About Detail, which is with Kobe Bryant, and he takes you through an intense NBA playoffs film breakdown. He will shine the spotlight on multiple players. You'll wait and see who they are in the next episode, which is to be available on Saturday on ESPN Plus and streaming exclusively on the ESPN app. To watch previous episodes, download the app and start your free trial of ESPN Plus now. All right, so coming up here, there have been disturbing allegations of sexual assault that have resurfaced from 22 years ago involving Lions' new head coach, Matt Patricia. But is that fair and reasonable? We will have reaction to that in just a moment. Thanks for waking up and starting your day with us. Get Up on ESPN.
Why show an empty grill to introduce McDonald's new fresh beef quarter pounder? Because you haven't ordered one until now.